Well, after a really wet May and spring growing season that started, where we were having rain all the time, every single week, it seemed like I planted my screening that you can see over here to my left on May 29th. You guys can go back and check that video out about what I planted and so on. And wouldn't you know, it took a couple of weeks almost after that to get any rain on it, to get it germinated and get it started. So that said, I think it was about maybe like a week and a half after I planted it to where we first got rain on it. And last weekend I was out here. It would have been on June 16th last week that I came out and checked on it. That would have been about a week or so after it had its first rain. And I'll tell you, it was looking pretty decent considering that's all it had to get germinated. So planted on May 29th, it didn't get any rain until something like June 7th or 8th or 9th, somewhere in there. So it was still a whole week and a half after that. But anyway, today out here, I'm looking at it. It's now been 2 weeks since it had some rain on it. It got some rain yesterday. It got some rain the day before. And so considering all that, it actually looks pretty good. I did a video a while back about applying gypsum to amend my soil a little bit, trying to give it more sulfur, trying to give it more of that deep green color and more make it overall a more healthy plant. I definitely think that this year it looks a lot more green than it has in past years where it's had more of a yellow color. So I'm happy with the way that it looks. And I'll tell you, it's definitely a lot thicker. In the past couple of years, when it has gone without rain after planting for a while, it's very sparse. You'll just run along a stalk here and there as opposed to it just being full. It's a pretty thick stand of the Egyptian wheat, pearl millet, and the two different kinds of milo that are in it. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to go ahead today and apply liquid fertilizer to it. I put down dry fertilizer at planting time. Because it takes so long for dry fertilizer to be taken up by the plants, that may only now be starting to benefit them. So I think by hitting it with some liquid fertilizer today, there's some rain in the forecast even this evening, and I think maybe a day this week we might get some rain possibly. But I'm going to go ahead and put the liquid fertilizer out. I'm hesitant. I was going back and forth on whether to do that. Reason being, there are some places in the plot where there's clover that I've clipped even a few weeks ago. Usually try to apply liquid fertilizer 7 to 10 days after clipping. But you can see right behind me here, the clover patch. It has some timothy that's come back up in it. It has some grasses in it, that sort of thing. But there's a really good stand of clover out there, and it hasn't grown too much. If I were to go back and clip it now, I would be mowing it even lower than I really want to. And also with this week, we've got probably our hottest week of the summer so far. Hopefully it'll be the hottest week we have all summer. But at any rate, there's going to be temps in the high 90s, probably hitting that heat index up into the hundreds. So I don't want to stress those plants back any more than I need to and let them kind of be in a mature state for now. And then I'll come back and clip it again here later in the year. So that's what my plan is. The other thing, the reason I was hesitant as well, is there are some places in my plot down at the other end where I planted a deer and bird blend from Grandpa Ray Outdoors. It's got soybeans, milo, sun hemp, sunflowers. I'm definitely seeing the sun hemp coming up. I'm seeing a lot of buckwheat coming up in it. I didn't mention that one. And I haven't seen a lot of milo in it, but I think that could come along here later. And then I also planted grow forage brassica, which is a spring, it's an all-season type of brassica. It doesn't grow a bulb on the bottom of it like a turnip or a radish, but it's more of a forage on top. So I'm seeing a ton of that coming up. So I'm pretty excited about that because I've never been able to get a good stand of it in the past couple years. This year I tried spring planting it instead of fall planting it, and it's looking really well. I'm seeing a lot of it germinating everywhere. But part of the reason I was hesitant there to spray is there's some places that it's germinated and the leaves are nice and big. There's a lot of surface area to hit with that foliar feeding strategy of liquid fertilizer. But then there's some places where it's newly germinated. And so I think at any rate, it's going to hit the plants it's going to hit the soil that it doesn't hit the plants, and it's going to benefit them in some way. I don't want to be stingy with the liquid fertilizer. So as much as I can feed these plants, I want to be able to do that. So there are a couple places where the plot doesn't look that great, but that's why you come back and you have a backup plan in the fall. So I've got a plan in the fall. I've got some 3-way annual clover to put out. I've got a blend called Fall Draw that is more of your traditional fall blend. It's got your clovers, it's got turnips and things like that in it. I can't remember everything else that's in it right now, but it's more of a fall blend. That's going to be my savior crop. So my goal there is going to be, we'll see what the summer brings here temperature-wise and weather-wise. And if I've got some places I need to save in the plot, that'll be what I can use that 3-way annual clover for. That clover will be planting not only for this fall, but also for next spring. It'll probably germinate just enough that it'll get enough growth that before the growing season's over, it'll not bloom. It won't put any heads out, hopefully. And then whenever the spring comes back around next year, I should have a nice thick stand of clover from that coming back too. So what liquid fertilizer am I using? I'm using a couple of jugs that I have from last year that I didn't finish all of. I've barely got enough to do this about half-acre whole area that I have here. One of the liquid fertilizers is 1149, so it's a higher nitrogen one, perfect for the Fortress and the Milo and that sort of crop. And then the other one is a 41212, which is going to be higher in your phosphorus and potassium. That's going to be for your clovers and legumes and things like that. So that's what I'm going to spray out there today. It's really windy today. Not an ideal situation for spraying liquid fertilizer, but I live 45 minutes away from my food plot, so it can be tricky of knowing the timing of when to do things. We're going to go for it, and hopefully it'll work out for us. With the rain coming in the forecast, I'm not too worried about spraying this liquid fertilizer on. If it can stay on the plant for 4 hours or so, that should be enough for that plant to kind of start to take that in. The worst case, the rain falls on it, it washes the fertilizer off, and guess where it goes? It goes right into the soil. Plants will still benefit with that. It's going to get into the roots, it's going to get into the soil, and they'll gain those nutrients that way too. So it's a win-win all around. So on that note, with the liquid fertilizer, while there's rain in the forecast, I would just say don't hesitate. If your plants are needing it, especially if you're coming into a week like we're going to have this week with hot temperatures, that liquid fertilizer is just going to help strengthen and protect those plants from those hot temps and keep them healthy and get them hopefully through that rough part of the summer before they can get back to hopefully some cooler temps and maybe some regular rainfall. And I also wouldn't hesitate, if you've got rain in the forecast, go ahead and spray it, because like I said, it's going to hit the plant. Whatever doesn't get taken in by the plant in the matter of hours that it's on the plant, if it gets washed off, it's going to go into the soil and still going to benefit that plant. So I hope you guys are having a good food plotting season. Listen, even if things aren't working out the way you want them to, this is great time spent where we're not sitting inside in front of a screen, where we're out in nature, we're out in God's creation. We're getting to see, things grow hopefully, but also just getting to be outside and spend some time out there in nature. I would encourage you guys, make the most of it. Don't be discouraged if your plot isn't looking that great, because it's not the end of the world. There are much worse things in life than a food plot that isn't looking social media or YouTube picture worthy or video worthy. So hang in there, keep working at it, enjoy your time out there. Thank you for watching Farming for Whitetails. We'll see you next time.